Okay, we are live, I believe. Elle Ingalls here. Good morning to you. Hope it's a beautiful morning for you. Boy, we're going to talk about people triggers today, and that was the topic of my mastery group call on Monday night. So, clients of mine, either in my regular program, my certification program, past clients who want to continue some work with me can fall into what I call mastery. And we have a monthly group call in mastery. Usually have some themes going on throughout each year that I've done this. And today or Monday, we did people triggers. So I wanted to bring forward some of the things that we shared during that call because, sometimes it's not the work you're doing or health or all these other things that can cause us to trigger the stress response. It's things that people do. I remember one of my clients just had to see her boss walking down the hallway, not knowing if they were even coming to their particular office, but just walking down the hallway, and they would start to feel their heart racing. Sometimes it's the tone of voice that we hear from people. If someone is triggered, their voice will tend to get tight and it can become more high pitched. It's going to have some aggression in it, maybe even some vocal fries. So there's going to be some tension in here because in fight or flight, we tense the front of our body to protect ourselves. And we've got our spine back here and all our ribs and things that protect a lot back here. And our glutes are big muscles to protect, but in the front, we're really vulnerable. So when we feel any sort of a threat, we'll tighten here and that will cause our own voices to change and our faces to change. Like everything starts to get tight. So that sends certain signals to people. Let's see, some other people triggers that we were talking about. It could be something that someone you live with does repetitively that you don't want them to do. It could be the small things, how they drive, how they load the dishwasher, how they put the dishes away. You like them a certain way, and the other person wants them a different way, or doesn't even think about it. So all of those little differences that can cause irritation. So that's one way to look at it. Are you getting a little annoyed or a little irritated? You can also notice if people are causing you to trigger the stress response or your thoughts about people are causing you to trigger the stress response. If you move into what I call the blame game, so finger pointing. And in that case, what we're doing is we have this kind of almost desperate need to rationalize or justify our annoyance or our anger. So you'll notice yourself saying things like, I've every right to be angry here. If you say that, if you say something along the lines of, um, I've, I've told you time and time and time again, you're justifying why you have every right to be angry. So let's take that apart for a moment and notice that if you have any kind of reaction like that, that again is going to raise your heart rate up. You're going to release the stress hormones. So what are the implications then? First of all, you're not going to be your best self in the situation. So there may be a full-blown argument that takes place. And then there's hurt feelings or not talking. I had a couple I coached. Sometimes I coach couples who wouldn't talk for 48 hours. It's like, there's residual from all of that. And so if you take a look and ask yourself, this is a question I've asked myself ever since I learned all this and figured this out was, okay, is this worth it? Is this moment, this situation worth releasing hormones that are going to literally harm me from the inside out? Like they're going to affect every little bit of me. Is this situation worth it? And pretty much every single time I say, no, it is not. No, it is not. Even when really tough stuff happens, when I deeply ask myself that question, I'm like, the best thing I can do in this situation is to not overreact. It's to not overreact. If I don't overreact, then I won't cause an overreaction in the other person. So much of our arguments are just constant up leveling of overreaction. What do we, I'm here. One of my most watched videos, by the way, was when I was walking in the cemetery right near here. So I'm in my son's studio. There's guitars and plants, and it's quite a cool spot in his home. There's a cemetery nearby. And there's a fellow who lives down the street that goes every 2 days to his second wife's grave. And one day when I was um, taking a walk in the cemetery, I came across him. We started talking, probably for about an hour, actually. And he told me he told me the story of his first wife. They had children together. They lived in the house right up the street here. And they constantly argued to the point where she just left with the kids. It was over. The marriage was over. And he stood there and he said to me, I don't even remember what we argued about. I don't even remember what we argued about. So, what do people typically argue about? Because people triggers involve these things: money, um, what you're going to do in free time. I see arguments around there. So one person wants to go camping, the other person wants to lay on the beach. Well, maybe you can camp and lay at the beach, right? This reminds me, this is so good. I learned this from the coach Susan Gluzica. We have a paradigm in our culture of thinking things are either this or this. There's a lot of or conjunction, the conjunction or in our thinking and our way of being. Like, I can either do this or do that, but what if we can do both or neither? We have far more choices than the either or, and it's energetic too. So I'm going to take the camping example. One person wants to camp, the other person wants to lie on the beach. I can think of a lot of camping places all up and down Lake Michigan where you get to do both. Even hard camping where there's access to Lake Michigan. So can you change an or to an and? That could happen in so many of these little butting heads moments when it comes to people triggers. Can we put the dishes away this way and this way? So whenever you feel that kind of tension, like you're just about to go, just pause for a moment and ask yourself, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it for me to release the fight or flight stress response hormones that are going to change every one of my bodily processes for hours? For hours. You're now under the influence. That's a real hard pill to take, by the way, to like understand that. That's why, if you have followed me for a while, a few weeks ago, I went through the ABCs of pressure free and I talked about the G's, which are being goal setting is part of it, but also being gentle and generous to yourself. Because you're going to see things that you've been triggering over for decades or years. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that that's always bothered me. I let it bother me. You let it bother you. Again, that's kind of a hard truth to take. It's like, but I have every right to be angry here. That's what your scared brain is going to want to do. It's going to want to rationalize irrationally. Because when we're in fight or flight, we shut down our ability to be rational. The whole cortex and hippocampus are somewhat shut down. We are not thinking clearly. As in the words of Ellen Langer, I can't wait to meet this woman. She's responding to me, so I can't wait to meet her. Um, we're mindless. That's because we've shut this down. We're not able to really assess when we're under the influence of stress hormones. So that's why you may feel a lot of brain fog, a lot of indecision, not sure. Um, let's get back to some people triggers though. Um, this is subtle, but it's a real one. Even how people walk around the house. Like, do they have heavy footsteps? Do they walk softly? Do they make a lot of noise in the kitchen? One of the people who came to my group programs quite a bit, she um, she had a major complaint. And if you notice what you're complaining about, this kind of goes to what we did yesterday. That can give you a clue about some of your people triggers. Her husband had a habit of slamming the cupboard doors. like in the kitchen, like really slamming them. So you could be way off in the house and hear this boom, boom, boom from slamming the cupboard doors. Another one of my clients uh, is triggered because the cupboard doors are always open. They're not closed. So I joke about this with my husband. My husband's a great opener and I'm the closer. Even when we worked together, so we worked together for years, um, he would open up ideas and I was the closer. I followed through and executed on the ideas. So when we were creating the community music school in Battle Creek, I would have this whole list of things. He worked an entire year for no pay, by the way. He'd make a whole list of things that I was to execute. So I'd wake up in the morning with this little list by my spot at the table. And it's like, okay, on top of my job, I need to execute all of these things for this music school to happen. So he was like this opener and I was the follow through closer. So look, you can look at yourself in partnerships with workmates, with people you live with. All different personalities bring different skills, bring different talents. It's so good we're not all the same, okay? So how can you honor those? And that's what I want to really leave you with a tip today is when you have a lot of difference, how can you honor those differences? What can you look at about that difference and say, I'm so glad that that's the way they operate. They operate differently than I do. What are those things that you can honor and respect? Um, I think there's a real lack of respect and a lack of there's a lack of unconditional love in our society today that we need to have we need to flip the switch on that and really have so much more respect about each other and provide unconditional support and love for each other, especially in our families, but workplaces too. Like I remember some of the staff that worked for me, I constantly focused on their strengths and made sure there was backup for time for things that weren't there necessarily their strengths or handed those particular tasks to someone else. So I wish you a great pressure-free day, and I will see you tomorrow. But today, kind of watch out for those things that people do that might be causing you to have a little stress response going down. Bye.